Welcome back into Exit 99 Sports. As always, my name's Caleb Deloach, Cody Hinkbein back here with us, and today we welcome on a new very, very special guest, Mr. Ryan Winkler. Ryan,
hey,
welcome on.
Thank you. How's it going?
Going pretty good. We're going to do a little bit of football preview here today. It's the plan. Talk about, the three teams we have here in Cape County, Cape, Jackson, and now Saxony, their first ever varsity football season. Cody, looking forward to it. Our first time actually doing football. We started in Durham basketball this past year.
Yeah, should be entertaining. Three should be pretty good teams this year. Look forward to returning players, but also a lot left us, just like every season. Excited to get back at it.
Yeah, so jumping in, start with you, Ryan. Ryan, you do football, basketball, baseball for Withers Radio, like Cody and I, but so how long have you been doing radio for Cape?
Since 2014, 15. So like 10 years.
Okay. And then you, where did you go to high school?
I went to Saxony.
You went to Saxony. So look, we have we have representation.
That's right.
Can't call me a homer for just repeatedly putting Jackson people on here. So you went to Saxony, and then was this kind of a field you thought you wanted to get into back then, or at what point were you like, hey, let's start talking about sports?
So my brother was doing Central play-by-play, and they couldn't really keep a color guy.
Okay.
And so he finally asked me if I wanted to do it with him. Mostly I was like, hey, why don't you ask me?
Yeah.
So then I started doing the color with him, and then maybe 2 years, we had the guy who was doing Jackson left, and so they moved John over to Jackson, and I took over Central, and then he eventually left, and you guys took over.
Yep. Okay. Well, there we go. There's the story. I didn't know the story. So, so that's cool. So you've been doing Cape now for a while.
Yeah.
So you have a pretty good grasp on the program. You've been there now for what? You started with good times, then some bad times, and now pretty good times.
I started with like 2 good times and quite a few bad times.
Yeah, there's a little.
Now back to good times again.
There's a rough stretch there, and that's who we can start with here first. Start off with the guest here. We'll talk about Cape a little bit. 10-2 last season, a good year once again. I know Cody mentioned it a little bit ago. 3 straight 10-win seasons, something that, like you said, hadn't been done since Coach Norman was here, early 2010s. Lost in the district championship this past year against Cardinal Ritter. I know, Ryan, I'm sure you guys talked about it, thought about it at least. Going into the season, like, hey, maybe we'll face Ritter again in the state semifinals or maybe the state championship or something. But unfortunately, you guys caught them in districts last year.
Yeah, it was probably about a week before the season started when they had the districts, the aligning of the districts and everything. And we're like, it'll be interesting to see. Maybe we can get them on the other side this time. And then the rankings and everything came out, and they're in the class.
Yeah,
so
it felt
class.
They're an inevitable force. It kind of feels like, especially the last few years. I know Cody and I got to call Jackson at Cardinal Ritter this past year. Also went really, really poorly. So they did kind of feel like they were the Thanos at the end of the bridge for you guys.
That's all right.
Yeah. So Cape Central, like you said, good year. A lot of really good seniors on this past year's team. I guess Zaire Thomas is probably the main guy. He was the SEMO Ball Offensive Player of the Year. He won the Carr Trophy. He won his first team All-State. So he was, from your perspective, was, the offense, I feel like, really went through Zaire most of the year.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it was mostly Zaire Thomas and Keyshawn Boyd. I mean, those were the 1-2 punch for a lot of the plays all season long. And it seemed like, you need a couple yards or a good chunk of yards, you get it to Zaire Thomas. And you need somebody to just kind of bully his way up the middle, you give it to Keyshawn Boyd.
Yeah, and like we saw, they were, one of the most well-rounded, I guess, running back units, probably, Cody, we saw most of the year last year.
Yeah, your 1A, 1B, pick your poison, thunder and lightning, whatever you want to call them. A pretty good deal in the backfield.
Yeah, and so looking at the other guys that are going to be heading out the door, obviously we said Zaire Thomas, he was the leading receiver and leading rusher on the team. Over 30 touchdowns. Kind of did a little bit of everything, but also you lose starting quarterback Declan Pittman. I feel like he performed pretty well. He was, I think, the 3rd leading rusher behind Thomas and Boyd. He threw for 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. It kind of felt like it was the best, quarterback performance that they've had probably in a little while. So that definitely, I feel like, helped the offense out substantially.
Yeah, it definitely. They hadn't had a good dual threat quarterback like him for quite a while. I mean, Quayshawn Chisholm was probably one of the last few that really kind of worked well in both positions. And that helped too. You had the two running backs, but then you also had a quarterback that could run the ball if you needed him to, and that caused a lot of problems for a lot of teams last year.
So you lose those two. I mean, those two guys, like I said, big part of the offense, quarterback, and then your leading rusher and receiver. A lot going out the door in offense. And then defense is where I felt like Cape made the biggest difference this past year. They're phenomenal. They had like 6 shutouts, I think, out of their 12 ball games. And you see a lot of the defense go out the door. I am still optimistic. We'll get there in a little bit, but you lose, Gavin Pittman, Declan's brother, Sean Shelton, Cole Geyser, all there in the linebacking DB core, Mateo Rivers at DB, and then Cartez Hopkins, kind of the big one up front in that front 7. He was credited with 25 tackles for a loss. So the defense was was a leader on the team, but also a lot going out the door there.
Yeah, that was one thing. The 2 years last year and the year before, the defense really kind of stepped up and helped keep a lot of those teams from even getting anywhere near making it a ball game.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'd threaten them, and then the defense seemed to kind of just wake up, lock down, and stop the other team from moving the ball down the field anymore. But yeah, losing Hopkins and all those guys, that's going to be a big blow.
Yeah, it's a lot to replace. I am optimistic, though. They do bring back a good amount of guys on that side of the ball, and that's where we can just kind of jump to now. I mean, the guys on the roster, obviously, I'll let you go ahead. Keyshawn Boyd, I mean, he's going to be, when you do lose your quarterback, who was your third leading rusher, you lose your leading rusher, who's also your leading receiver. You lose, I think, your next 3 leading receivers. I think Keyshawn Boyd is actually the leading returning receiver on the team.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting it to be a healthy dose of Keyshawn Boyd this next year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm expecting that too. And then Torrance Murray is kind of going to be the guy that fills in there for Zaire Thomas. Mm-hmm. He did a little bit of that last year towards the end of the games when they would take one of them out and leave the other one in. He would take kind of the opposite, and they would hand off the snaps. Every other snap would go to Murray, and he did a really good job, I think, filling that in. Yeah. So I think he's going to step into that role pretty well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then up front, I don't know what else come back on the offensive line. I know Connor Poole's back. Isaiah Husky's back. 2 guys who are very, anchors. Isaiah Husky, 3rd in state in the shot put and track and field season. So a couple of very strong kids, good blockers up front to lead that Keyshawn Boyd and Murray charge. And then, one guy, I'm interested to see how they use him, if they use him any differently. Obviously, he is a phenomenal, extra blocker on the end of the offensive line. That's Jathan Spain, who did commit to SEMO,
yep.
Big tight end. A couple years ago was the starting quarterback whenever Pittman went down. What do you think about Spain, the last couple years, and now what he's going to be heading into this year?
Yeah, obviously he's the emergency quarterback, obviously. Yeah. He's bulked up. He's a big kid. He had to change his pitching motion because his shoulders are too big. Like he couldn't throw over the top anymore.
I have those problems too, yeah.
You've been working out.
Yeah. It's just the shirt's really baggy.
That's right. Yeah, he's going to be a good extra blocker, I think, too. And then if they need somebody to get a couple short yards and maybe run over a defender or two, they toss him the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe some dump passes in there.
Yeah. No, I'm interested to see how they use them. Because, like I said, we'll get to here in a minute. There is some questions kind of at the quarterback position and, see if they do. Obviously, you have guys that are faster, like a Keyshawn Boyd or Torrance Murray, that they might line up at a Wildcat type quarterback type situation, or if you're in, goal to goal situation, you need to get a yard. Wouldn't be a bad idea to put the 6'4", 240-pound battering ram that is Jathan Spain there behind, because he also knows how to catch a snap, which is something that is important to a lot of these people who gets put in that position a lot of times, especially in high school. Get somebody out there that's never taken a snap in their life might catch them off guard a little bit. You see a lot of snaps over the head and stuff, and then one other big weapon on the team that might be overlooked, I think, is kicker Joey Charlton coming back. Had a pretty good career thus far. I know he got thrown in there as a freshman, made some big kicks. last year did well. I think he went 6 of 9. He had a long of 43.
Yeah.
Had a touchback on about half his kicks. So, I mean, I feel like he's a big weapon, and like you said, only hopefully going to keep getting better.
Yeah, that's exactly the hope. I mean, like you said, that 43 long kick, and I think he is at that point when he first started kicking, you know, obviously freshman, it's his first year. He's never actually done this because they just kind of recruited him basically from soccer.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like every year he got better and he got more comfortable being the kicker. And I think that with working in the offseason, I could see him being a pretty big part and being a pretty big name kind of kicker in the area.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's had a good, he looks good. He's had a good career. I mean, I think they attempted one. I think he, like Cody and I were only there obviously for one Cape game, was the Jackson game. I think they put him out there to take one that was like a 40-something yarder at the end of the first half, something like that. He missed it, but like barely wide right. Yeah. I thought it was good, but I mean, he has a huge leg, obviously.
Yeah.
Like he can. It's just all about obviously a little bit of the accuracy, but I mean, he's been a phenomenal kicker, especially in high school, where in Southeast Missouri,
you
guys played some teams that like I don't know what they have, but yeah, there's a lot of teams that don't have kickers. So, so like I said, there are definitely some question marks. There are good defenders coming back. Brayon Clemens, who's a track star as well. Jonathan Williams played well, linebacker. Joseph Hamlin at defensive back. There's a lot of good players coming back on that defense. But over on the offensive side, we kind of touched on it. What do you think is the answer besides let's give it to Keyshawn Boyd 150 times a season?
Because you can't do that, obviously. Exactly. And even with Torrance Murray coming in, a lot of teams, especially when Cape played Jackson, they knew what the main goal was to get it to one of them.
Yeah.
And so the same with when it came down to Cardinal Ritter too. You have to get somebody that can at least throw the ball. You don't need somebody that really just throws it downfield real far.
Right.
Just get dump passes maybe or something, some short yards each time. If you can get that into your game plan, I think that would make a world of a difference.
Yeah. You mentioned Torrance Murray. Torrance Murray, he did play a little bit last year. He showed up pretty well because, if I remember right, didn't Keyshawn Boyd get hurt?
Yeah, at one point he
back
was,
into the season kind of, and then Murray kind of stepped in and did well in that role we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we mentioned also Pittman graduating at quarterback, which, like we both said, probably the best quarterback play at Cape in a while. Jathan played pretty well for getting thrown in there, like middle of week 1 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
As a sophomore, but I mean, it's probably the most productive quarterback play. Completed around somewhere between 50-60% of his passes, over 1,000 yards. Was a good runner as well, which is a big part of his game, big part of the offense. So the question obviously is, where do they turn from there now? So this will also be like the 4th starting quarterback in 4 years, something like that. But
yeah,
what do you know? What are the names? Who are the possibilities to kind of take over that role for Pittman?
So I think it's going to end up being Aiden McGuire. They said a couple of the kids have told me that he's taken a lot of snaps in practice. He looks like he's comfortable back there. He's done pretty well. I think that's where they're leaning towards, is Aiden McGuire.
Okay.
But obviously things could change between now and week 1.
Yeah,
but
that is my big question mark, because I said I've never watched any of their JV games. I don't know what's going on exactly up behind Pittman. Last year I think Chapman Ogles was on the roster at quarterback, but he won't be this year. So it is definitely a big question mark, and that will be. I think that'll probably be what's going to really determine, how the season goes. Like you said, we'll get into the schedule here in a second. Like, no offense, but against New Madrid, against Kennett, against St. Charles West, maybe Sykeston, St. Dominic, you can hand it to Keyshawn probably 25 times, and he's probably going to get upwards of 200 yards and probably going to win by 30. But like you said, when you do have to play a team that's like can possibly take away that first option, that is where I think the issues are going to arise maybe. And we'll see. I'm excited to see kind of what Aiden McGuire looks like. Have you seen any Aiden McGuire, any snaps ever?
The most I've seen him throw is out on the baseball field.
There we go.
So
he's a baseball player also?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. He played baseball, yeah.
Which is a good amount of crossover between baseball and football.
Pretty much. Yeah. There's a pretty good chunk that crosses over.
Yeah, so that's a big question. Like we said, the defense, we mentioned, 6 out of 12 games were shut out, or they were held to double digits. Held teams to double digits, 6 out of 12 games. There were 4 shutouts. But yeah, they lose, Gavin Pittman, Shelton, Hopkins, Geyser, Rivers. So a lot of new faces going to be stepping in over there. Do you have any input on guys that you've seen that you like or anything like that on the defensive side of the ball for this upcoming year?
I mean, some of those guys that got a little bit of playing time towards the end of the season, obviously when you come in at that point, when you're up by a lot, you're not necessarily playing the first string of your opponent. But the defense, I think, still held them pretty well. But, I don't know what it's going to look like if you're playing against first string guys that you don't normally see.
Yeah, and it took a big jump. They gave up 15.8 points a game last year, which was a huge, like I said, jump. Even the previous 2 10-win seasons, they gave up 24 and 24, and then, like I said, cutting all the way down to 15. You could obviously see it, and the offense took a jump. So there were a lot of blowouts on the schedule last year, and we can, get into kind of what we see here going into this season. Schedule, just run through it. It is definitely manageable. I would say there are definitely some tough opponents, some interesting games, some games that might be kind of 50-50. We start out at New Madrid County Central. New Madrid went 4-6 last year. Cody, how did the game go last year? They played New Madrid. Like I said, Cape was very dominant in that one.
Yeah, obviously that was a home game week 1, but 42-0, so handled them pretty easily.
I assume more of the same this year. I think New Madrid lost a little bit from last year's team, so I don't know if we'll see if they're where they hover around at, but this should be a winnable game. And then St. Charles West week 2. How did they fare against St. Charles West?
Yeah, went to third place, but also another shutout. So back-to-back shutouts to start the season last year. See it the same kind of way.
Yeah,
probably not a shutout, but probably a winnable game for sure.
Yeah, because we said the defense might take a step back, probably with a lot of the losses. I mean, they did lose a lot, especially in the front 7. But once again, St. Charles West went 3-7. I like the potential to start 3-0 because next week they go to Sykeston this year. What was the score for there, Cody? It was another big
56-16 last year.
And that was year 1 under Coach Jim May, who was at Scott City, who had Scott City really, really rolling while he was there. And, I've seen a lot. There's a lot of articles this summer on SEMO Ball talking about, kind of the progression they've made. And I think, he's a very good coach. And Sykeston is a team at one point in time that was, like I said, if they would beat Cape or they'd beat Jackson, it wasn't news.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see, I don't know if you have any, I'm interested to see if they will get back to that point here sometime in the near future.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. He's a good coach, and I know we talked about it once before. They'll improve again this year. Obviously, they're going to get better because they've got him running the show.
Mm-hmm.
So
and bring a lot of guys back too from this past year's team. They went 3-7. Struggled in the SEMO conference. I think they will be better. They do bring, like I said, a lot back. They have, all you got to do is look at some of the other programs. Look at boys basketball. There's no shortage of really good athletes at Sykeston. And like I said, we saw it when, Cape Central coach Kent Gibbs was at Sykeston. I mean, they were a state final threat every year for about, 5-6 year run there. And so I'm interested to see how they improve. I want them to improve, as weird as that might sound as a person who does Jackson games. And once again, doesn't want to sound like uppity, but like I want good games in the SEMO conference.
Yeah,
like exactly. I want there to be competitive games. Like I said, when I was in school and even after I graduated, it was like Sykeston beat Cape 28-20. It's like, yeah, that just happens. That's a normal thing. And now it's like, wow, that would be amazing if that happened. So I am hoping Sykeston does get the turnaround. We'll talk about them a little bit more here later. I do like what they bring back. Obviously, like I said, a lot of athletes, a lot of studs. So hoping they do improve for sure a little bit. But as another game, I think it'll be more competitive, but I definitely give Cape an advantage as of now. Like I said, we'll see more how Sykeston looks. Next opponent, Poplar Bluff. This will be a home game this year. Cody, we've seen Poplar Bluff the last couple of years. They've been, they've been solid, but last year Cape definitely got the better hand of them.
Yeah, that one was 49-6 at Poplar Bluff. So this one will be a home game for them this year.
Yeah, another situation where I think it's a year 2 of a coach. The head coach there had been there for a while. He stepped down, and now the head coach, I believe, is an alum. He'd been there for a long time as an assistant, so we'll see what happens. We'll see how they progress. 49-6, though, like I said, is a big margin to overcome, so I'm sure it'll be competitive. Obviously, SEMO conference games are always that way. And the next opponent at St. Dominic. Ryan, tell me about the St. Dominic game last year. That was the monsoon game, right? That was the hurricane game?
The hurricane game, yeah. So that was that day when it rained, poured because of that, the hurricane coming in at the time, and it was ugly.
It was an ugly game. What was the score? The final score, Cody?
Yeah, 47-0. But going in, people thought it was going to be closer.
Yeah.
But yeah, 47-0. And at that point, Cape has 5 running clock games to start the season. And defense had really put on a show.
Yeah, very good start. And like you said, the St. Dominic game, I definitely thought it'd be closer because I remember I watched the game back after ours was over. They were really, really valiantly trying to pass the ball a lot in 40-mile-an-hour winds, and it was not working.
Yeah, I was going to say the score it tells a different story than what it actually was. Because like you just said, they were trying to throw passes where the wind was blowing the ball right back at the quarterback.
Yeah.
And you could only throw the ball going one way, and even then you got to wait for your guy to get an extra 20 yards downfield before you try to throw a 10-yard pass.
Yeah. Not to mention how slow you're running in just a foot of rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a similar game over at Jackson. It was ugly that week. In the St. Dominic, they went 4-6 last year. They were a Class 6 school. They did get bumped up because a couple years ago, this is just unnecessary St. Dominic information, but they won like 3 or 4 games in the regular season, and then they just went on a crazy run to the state title game and lost. So I'm sorry, St. Dominic, you got bumped up 2 classes because you're a private school. But yeah, they're in Class 6, District 4. They got smoked by Rockbridge in their district. But once again, I don't know what they have coming back. I expect it to be more competitive than 47-0, assuming there won't be 1,000 miles an hour winds and a monsoon just pouring down. So I'll be interested to see what it looks like on a dry field, maybe up there at St. Dominic too. So
yeah,
it'll be an interesting game. And then obviously the big one, the people care about the most probably at Jackson this year. Jackson, we'll talk about. They went 9-3, went to the quarterfinals. Jackson won 42-6. That's 9 straight wins for the Indians over Cape. There was a point, Ryan, when did Cape get the ball first and then Zaire scored the 80-yard touchdown?
Yeah. Second play of the game.
Yeah, second play of the game.
There was a second there where I was like,
I thought it was going to be a good game.
This might be interesting. We'll see what happens. And then I think Jackson's first possession, they went backward, punted or maybe even turned it over.
Punt, yeah.
And I was just like, I was like, I mean, things are going. If there's going to be an upset, things are going that direction. And then it was just like,
yeah.
I mean, you were there. It was a slow, just grind to 42-6.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cody, you have it pulled up over there. It's been a lopsided rivalry as of late. Once again, that was a similar situation where it's like, hey, back and forth. I'm like, when Coach Norman first got hired, they were just curb stomping Jackson while I was in high school. It was brutal. And then, Coach Eckley came around. And it was an even game, it felt like. And then, the last decade, it's kind of been a little one-sided.
Yeah.
A little one-sided. Yeah, it's been a tough road to hoe for the Tigers.
2015, last time.
2015?
Jackson, yep.
Just need Al Young to suit back up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Get him off the sidelines. Get him in there. Sneak him in a jersey. Nobody noticed.
That's right. I just want that game to be much closer.
Yeah.
Than it has been, just because it'll make it a much bigger deal. I mean, obviously it's a big deal now because it's Cape Jackson.
Yeah.
But I feel like, if it can be closer score, it'll make it so much better.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I mean, obviously, the example I'm about to use is we won the game. But my senior year, it was Jackson won 29-26 or something like that. It was back and forth. It was these are two even teams. They both do different things. Jackson was throwing it. Cape was running all over people. And it was fun. It was just like, yeah, this is two evenly matched teams. I don't know what's going to have to change for that to be the case, but, Cape Central, they definitely have had talent, but just not been enough, I guess, just enough overall to get up there to, like I said, pull a little bit closer.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, like you said, but could be a similar situation this year where Cape comes in with a better record. They could come in and
definitely might be undefeated.
Get a lot of fan support and get over to Jackson. And
yeah, we'll have to make sure we all get there early for that one because we probably won't need parking.
Yeah, looking 2 months ahead if you're listening and watching. You know what? Don't show up late.
Yeah, don't wait till game time.
Show up at 7. Leave the good parking spots for me, Ryan, and Cody. We need them because we have to carry stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
We have a lot of crap. I digress. The week after Jackson does not get any easier. This is definitely where, it feels like a switch flips, right? New Madrid, St. Charles West, Sykeston. We'll see what happens, but those feel like inferior opponents to an extent. Obviously, smaller schools, things like that. Yeah. And then you jump into, Poplar Bluff. We'll see where they are at. They were a 500 team last year, Class 5 team. St. Dominic, around 500, Class 6 team. Jackson, and then you go Farmington, Lift for Life. So a couple more tough opponents. Obviously, Cape blew out Farmington last year, but a new twist this year.
Yeah,
as Hall of Fame coach, former Jackson coach Brent Eckley is now the head coach at Farmington. Yeah. So
came back after 2 years, I think it was in Arkansas.
A couple of years away. Moved back closer to home or closer to family, and I'm interested to see what happens. I don't. Farmington has not been bad. They've been a pretty consistent team. The biggest interesting thing, Cody, Farmington has been running the option in some variation for about a decade or more.
I don't see that continuing this year.
No, probably not. They're probably going to throw more than 5 passes a ball game, I think, with Brent Eckley at the helm. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Like I said, this is the meat of the schedule. It will be tough to bounce back. Cart before horse or anything here, but you are playing at Jackson, and the very next week you have to play. You do get them at home. You have to play Farmington, who is going to be, hungry, coming back from getting blown out last year.
Yeah.
And it is a rivalry. I mean, you guys have been very competitive over the last several years in the same district, playing each other a lot in postseason. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Seems to play Farmington twice every year in football. Yeah. It always seems to end up being either the first round or the second round of the playoffs end up being against Farmington.
Yeah, then I don't know how Coach Eckley rearranges the players or anything. They do lose the Brett Dry, but a lot of the multi-sport athletes, the Tatum Tinsley and the other Tinsley and all the different.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens there. I mean, it's an unknown. Like I said, we'll talk more about like the whole CMO conference here in a minute, but who knows? Jackson, like I said, when I was in school, we were terrible. I think we won 6 games in 3 years. And then we won 7 games in Coach Eckley's first season.
Tell him there's no who knows. What's your prediction there, Ryan?
No, I'm not doing that.
Ryan, who's going to win? Who's winning, Ryan?
No. I've learned my lesson. Never do that.
I might disappoint Ryan. I'm going to make a prediction here in a little bit. We'll talk about the next week, you guys play Live for Life. That was a fun ball game last year.
Yeah.
It was a pretty high scoring. Live for Life went to the Final Four in Class 3. They lost to Seneca. They went 8-6. They're a team who they played you guys. They played a crazy tough schedule. I think they're technically a private school.
Yeah, they are.
So,
because they're, I think they're technically like a charter. I think they're a charter school.
Yeah. So they get to play kind of whoever they want. It feels like most years. Yeah. So I mean, they see the Cardinal Ritters. They'll play Metro Catholic teams. And so it was a very competitive ball game. Cody, you have the running box score. If I remember right, it was like a crazy back and forth ball game.
Yeah, 28-22 Central at halftime.
Yeah.
Central pulls away in the second half, but
28-28.
44-28 final.
That first half was nuts.
Yeah, like I said, Ryan, I'm supportive. I went back and watched. I watched most of your games back. And I watched that game, and I was just like, this game is kind of on drugs. Like, these teams were just like, it was like Cape. I'm like, oh my gosh, Cape's going to blow them out. And then it was just like, never mind, Cape can't do anything right. No, Live for Life is now alive. And then it was just, then Cape came out in the second half.
Yeah.
Played really, really well. So
that was the Zaire 4 touchdown game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like 3 of those were in the first quarter too. I don't have that detail, but that was a crazy game. And they went to the Final Four. Yeah. They're a team that I assume is always going to be good and be crazy athletic. They're going to have a kid or two playing college football.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how that game goes this year.
Yeah, they have no home field either. They play all their games on the road. They don't have a home field. I don't know about basketball. I don't think they have a gym because their school is right downtown in St. Louis. Like, you can drive past it if you're going towards Busch Stadium. Yeah. And it's just kind of off to the side.
I'm actually curious. So I think they play somewhere. Everybody listening, this is good radio. We're going to look this up here. Well, it says on the Misha website, when you look up the location, it says they're playing at Cape.
Yeah.
So, interesting. Okay. I mean, I figured they might share a stadium. Cody and I went to, Jackson played Miller Career Academy / Vashon.
Yeah.
And they have what was it called? Like the entire conference shares a field.
Yeah. There's 5 schools that share that field. So,
Live for Life. Yeah. We coming back down here. That'll be a competitive ball game. Like I said, that middle end of the schedule is really going to be interesting. Like, because you're going to have time to break in, new players. A lot of people coming in new spots or people that bigger roles. Then last week of the season at Kennett 0-10 on the season last year. Not to be mean, I guess technically the worst team in Southeast Missouri. I think everybody else had at least a win. But Cape won that 56-0 pretty convincingly, but might not happen in 1 year. But Coach Joel Wyatt, who did have a lot of success at Kennett, is coming back to Kennett. So it's another team who not too long ago was, a contender in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So interested to see how they improve, but I'm not expecting them to go from 56-0 to flipping to a victory this year. So that should be another Cape victory. So, I mean, on the whole, I am optimistic about this season, Ryan. But you're going to see them. You see them a lot more than I do. So what is your thoughts as we go into the season here? What are you feeling about this team?
Obviously, the quarterback position's the biggest question. I'm not sure who's taken over. Not 100% sure, I should say. Obviously, Keyshawn Boyd in the backfield, Torrance Murray, Jathan Spain. I feel like it'll be close to last year. Maybe the final scores of each game will be the same, won't be as big of a win on each side, but I feel like record-wise they'll probably be around the same record.
Yeah. Yeah. Cody, do you have any feeling on Cape going into this year?
Yeah, I think obviously anytime you lose a standout athlete like Zaire, but like you said, Boyd steps into that role. Question at quarterback, obviously, echo what Ryan said, but yeah, we'll get to our predictions here in a little bit.
Yeah, definitely some question marks, but we haven't talked about it. Cape Central also not a bad head coach over there. Ken Gibbs been doing it for a little while. Won a lot of ball games and has really shaped this program in his image. I mean, you look at. I don't remember. Do you remember exactly what year he got to Cape? Would he come in? I know he was there when they went 7-5. Did he show up in 18? I believe.
No, I don't think he was there in 18. I don't think he was there in 19.
Either in 20.
I think he might have been 2-7.
Okay,
might have been 20.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Cape Central went. We talked about it earlier. They had Coach Norman. You look at it. They went to 3 straight trips to the Final Four, and they went to the state title game, the only state title appearance ever. In 2014, they're competitive. They're competitive 7-6, 7-5, and then 1-9 the next year. Then they jump back up to 7-5. Then it's 3-6, and it's 2-7, and you're sitting there. Also, I mean, you were there.
Mm-hmm.
I, for those of you that don't know, married a Cape Central graduate and teacher at the time. And so we went to go watch her kids play quite a bit. I, too, was suffering with you Cape Central fans through 3-6 and 2-7 games. I just, didn't have as much riding on it per se.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's not true at all, actually. I'm married to the Cape Central person. So if they lost bad, that was bad for me. It was maybe worse than anybody, actually. Now I think about it, I might be the biggest victim here. Now that we talk about it. Yeah, I mean, so it went from 5 wins in 2 seasons combined to 10-4 state semifinals, 10-4 state semifinals back-to-back.
Yeah.
Back-to-back seasons, and then 10-2 this past year. So 30 wins in 3 seasons. A very, very good turnaround by Coach Gibbs. And I think a lot of the coaching staff is going to stay the same. So there's a lot of continuity there, at least. So I'm definitely optimistic about Cape Central, and we'll get to see a lot of new faces, at least. So I'm curious to see how some of these guys step up into their new roles. So next, we can jump into the team that Cody and I do the radio for, which is the Jackson Indians. The Indians went 9-3 last season, 8 straight wins from September 20th through November 15th. So it started out a little bit rough. They went on a roll conference season and then ended up getting knocked out of the Class 6 playoffs in the quarterfinals by Kirkwood up there at Kirkwood. They've now won back-to-back Class 6 District 1 championships over Seckman, at Seckman both years. 6 district titles in 7 seasons. And like I said, lost to Kirkwood 45-35. Fun ball game. Obviously rooting for Jackson. It stunk the way it ended, kind of brutally, but good season, fun year. It was a year, Cody, where I had a lot of question marks coming into the year. You had a lot of good players coming back, obviously, or players you thought were going to be good, but there was a lot of question marks going into last season. Drew Parsons' first year as a starter. I think the year before, going into this past season, they had lost the entire defensive line, stuff like that. So I had some question marks, but I was pretty, ended up being pretty impressed how things ended.
Yeah, I think you're always optimistic with the team that you have, but then you look at your schedule, and Jackson's going to play, similar lineup this year with the Cardinal Ritter, Cahokia, Edwardsville.
Yeah,
it really, really tough schedule. So, you may be one of the best teams in Southeast Missouri, but when you're up playing with the big dogs, just kind of going into this year the same way.
Yeah, and I felt like Jackson, that's what happens whenever you are good for a long time, is people get very excited to, jump on you and dance on your grave when things do go poorly. And I felt like there was a little bit of unnecessary throwing dirt on them after, getting blown out week 1 and week 3 against very, very, very good football teams.
Yeah. You start 1 and 2, that's always going to be a struggle no matter what level you're playing at. But me and you saw it firsthand. Hey, we're playing a lot of D1 athletes, and this isn't as bad of a team as the 1 and 2 record indicated.
Right. It was intense. Like I said, we started the season at Cardinal Ritter. They were coming off a state title. I think they were undefeated. And then,
there was it's like a D1 team on their own.
Yeah, you saw them this past year. You saw them the year before. It was great. It was genuinely kind of crazy. You and I were field level calling the game. It was terrible, by the way. I'm complaining. I complained a lot. I would complain more if it happens again. Looking at you.
Talking about you had to sit by the.
I'm looking at you, Edwardsville.
You had to sit by the giant.
No,
you talking about a Cardinal Ritter?
A Cardinal Ritter. Cody lost money in this past season, football season, calling games. Cody bought a tent before the game, and so we called the game on the track. Inside on the track.
Oh, basically. You guys sat down there. Okay.
We were down there. Cody and I did just kind of walk in and just kind of take over.
Yeah.
We were just plugging stuff into track sheds, doing whatever we wanted. But it was crazy. How big they were, how fast they were. Every hit felt like the hardest hit I'd ever seen in a high school football game. It was insane. Which you look at it, their quarterback is going to Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Their best running back is going to Nebraska. Their best receiver is going to Kentucky. And then 30 more guys are playing at Purdue and Ball State, and UNLV, and
Iowa State in there somewhere.
Yeah, it was insane. They were a college team, like you said. It was crazy. Good win over Cahokia, which we didn't really know at the time how good Cahokia was or wasn't. They ended up being pretty good. Had a good year. That was an interesting game. Cody and I were roughing it, Ryan. All right, we went to Cardinal Ritter week 1. We had a Saturday game at East St. Louis against Cahokia.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that.
We had a Saturday game at Edwardsville at 5 p.m. or something.
Yeah, because the Edwardsville game got moved, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be at Jackson. I don't know. I'm just stuck in a loop of complaining, reliving this past season, and I hated it. So Jackson had a weird schedule, definitely to start the year. Playing on the road a lot, playing back-to-back Saturday games, and then one game. And kind of the Edwardsville game, Edwardsville was better than Jackson, and we got killed. I do think if the world went normally for that ball game, Jackson still might have lost if it was at Jackson. Yeah. I don't think it was be 41-7. It was just like things went bad at the very beginning, and it just snowballed and snowballed. It was just like first possession, turnover inside the like other team's 20, turnover on the next possession. It's just like it just snowballed pretty quick.
Yeah, that was 14-0 pretty quick and hard to recover.
But yeah, so like I said, Jackson ended up coming back down to Southeast Missouri, going undefeated in SEMO Conference. Good run the back end of the year. Went to the quarterfinals. And, you know, for a team that was pretty good, when it comes to graduation, Jackson gets away pretty good. I mean, they do lose some very important pieces, as every team does every year. But all things considered, they're not getting killed necessarily by graduation this year. You know, Cody, I mean, it kind of starts and ends on offense, especially with one guy. It's Kai Crow, 2-time All-Stater. He's going to Truman State. Ended with like 3,000 yards receiving, like 30 touchdowns. I mean, he was kind of the passing offense, especially early in the year.
Yeah, for sure. Their most outstanding player on the offensive side. You lose a little bit in the backfield, kind of your bruiser, if you will, Zach Crump. And then obviously on the defensive side, they lose about half of that defense, but you have a lot of up-and-coming players also.
Yeah. And Kai Crow, underrated as a kicker. This past season, he went, say, like 6 for 6 on field goals, 5 for 5, something like that. I mean, he was Jackson doesn't kick a lot of field goals in my lifetime, so that was a new experience, and he was really good at it. And not to mention it was a touchback pretty much any time they let him kick it deep. And that is a weapon in high school football, being able to pin your opponent back on the 20 pretty much every time. Also on offense, like you said, Zach Crump, I mean, he had up near 20 touchdowns this season. He was the goal line guy, short yardage guy, and was a nice change of pace, I felt like, to Jalen Hampton.
For sure.
And then also a big part of the run game and then protecting your quarterback. Jackson loses the entire interior offensive line. Braden Smith at center, and then Grant Lindsley, Jesse Keller at the guard spots. So that is, I mean, we're talking about question marks. That is a very big one that might not get talked about as much as losing Kai Crow, but that is a big loss. Losing that many guys, even on an offensive line, if you talk about it as a whole, looks good, but you are going to have 3 guys taking, their first snaps together as on a varsity line and getting thrown into the fire pretty quickly against some very good teams. And those guys also, Lindsley and Keller, something else that Jackson hadn't done a lot, calling games for us, Cody, is they flipped those guys over to play defensive line. And that really, I felt like, kind of changed the season, and especially like how they defended the run, got to the quarterback.
For sure. Yeah, you talk about getting frustrated early in the season and, hey, let's not get overwhelmed here. But when you get back to Southeast Missouri and you start playing both sides of the football, Jackson kind of coasted those guys both ways.
Yep, and then a couple other big names. Marcus Kutzinger started out the year on the defensive line, went back to his normal position, linebacker, about midway through the year. Phenomenal, great run, stuffer in the middle of the field. Did a pretty good job rushing the passer here and there. On the back end, Gavin Allspaw, who was only his first year playing corner, but did a great job. Very physical, out on the edge, good athlete, obviously running with people, but very good in run support. And then maybe the biggest loss on maybe the defense as a whole, but especially in the defensive backfield, Tyson Ford, all-state safety, I believe led the team in tackles and interceptions. I mean, Cody, he had a solid career up to that point as, Jackson, Indiana. I think he had played corner up until this past season. He went back to safety, and I mean, he was the only thing keeping, Edwardsville and Cardinal Ritter from scoring 50, 60 points, felt like half that game.
Yeah, pretty much the ball hawk. And then whenever you talk about it, you don't really ever want your safety to be the leading tackler, but the first half of the season when he's making most of the tackles and
he got a lot of work the first couple weeks. Yeah, he was phenomenal. Like I said, maybe the most improved player on the entire team. He was great. Like I said, if anybody did get past the front 7, Tyson Ford was always there. Like you said, laid a lot of big hits over the middle, people coming through, trying to make contested catches. He did a fantastic job. Allspaw, I didn't mention he's going to the same college as Zaire Thomas up there in Wisconsin, Platteville. And Zach Crump going to William Penn University, which I think is where Coach Eckley went to college. Don't quote me on that. This random, I don't know why. I just know stupid stuff. Returning, though, Jackson has a lot. A lot of guys I really am optimistic about And, Cody, the big one, quarterback Drew Parsons coming back, second full-time starting year. Last year, felt like he cleaned up some of the, turnovers and stuff like that as the year went on, and really was able to, kind of show off how good of an athlete he was and even how good the arm was once he got a little bit more comfortable back there.
Yeah, you mentioned first year full-time, and I think those first couple of games you're really throwing them into the fire.
Yeah, it's a heck of a way to start your career.
Going to be a different start to the season, I feel like, this year under pressure. If you can eliminate some of those interceptions and fumbles, just take care of the football, those games can turn out different.
Yeah, another guy we can count on and has been the guy since his freshman year, Jalen Hampton, a running back. I mean, he's been phenomenal, over 1,000 yards again, double-digit touchdowns. I'm just excited to see how he kind of continues on here and his career. And Ryan, you've seen him now a few times.
Yeah,
Jalen Hampton's been solid back there, and especially as a guy who is, not the big bruising back that you see some of these guys.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, I'm impressed when the first time I saw him play, I was impressed.
Yeah,
very impressed.
Like I said, especially, anytime you're a freshman starting on a Class 6 team as he was, it's always kind of catches your eye. A lot of guys still coming back. Like I said, some of the wide receivers are behind Kai Crow. We'll get into more detail maybe in a minute. Camden Brockmeyer, Evan Turley, Jory Toma, even Grant Brown at tight end will be back this season. And then on the offensive line, we said they're losing the interior. But, Cody, they might have the best tackle duo in not just Southeast Missouri, maybe the state of Missouri. They have Bryson Wessel at left tackle, insane athlete. He's going to Iowa State to be a defensive lineman. He got 4th in the state in wrestling. He got 9th in the state in discus. And on the other side, right tackle, you have Braden Harris, who's the older brother of Blaine Harris, great basketball player. He's like 6'7", 300 pounds. He has a bunch of D1 offers: Kansas, Arkansas State, Washington State, Missouri State. So the interior is a question, but I feel like the tackles are very, very, very solid, Cody.
For sure. Yeah, nobody's going to push them around. And Harris is just going into his junior year, so still a lot of growing there. But, yeah, when you're committed to D1 schools, a lot of potential.
Yeah, big-time guys. And then on the defensive side, a lot of guys that got a lot of playing time for us. On the defensive line, the groups are kind of split in half between Wessel, Keller, and Lindsley, the offensive lineman guys. They would sub in. In the second group, those sub in Keegan Bregman, Kavion Williams, Zayden Johnson. These are guys that played early on, and they're definitely undersized compared to those guys who are behemoth. But I'm excited to see their growth. I don't know anybody else going to step up. I haven't got to talk to Coach Nesbitt yet, do our kind of preseason interview stuff. But those guys came out early, did well. A group that I was impressed by, Cody, is a linebacking core. We have a lot of guys back there. Carter Shipman, Boyd Langford, very good in the middle. Joe Moore, another really good wrestler, kind of came on late in the season. Brett Finlay did a really good job as well, playing kind of that hybrid linebacker slot defender guy. I really like that middle part of the defense there.
Yeah, I really think the defense is going to be solid. You mentioned you're losing a lot of the secondary. There's a couple of the Reagan brothers, but hey, your D line is where it all starts and ends, I feel like.
Yeah, and like you said, 2 Reagans back in the secondary. Won't get run by too many people, that's for certain. Right. Blaine Reagan, the person I've probably talked about more on this podcast than anybody else individually, 400-meter state champion. 6th in the 100-meter. Not too bad in Class 5. And then Brock Reagan, does not run track, baseball player. You watch him on the field, his closing speed, things like that, very, very impressive. You can tell it is runs in the family. Very willing tackler. So I'm excited to see their growth, see where they're at. Blaine is another guy like Jalen Hampton who's been a starter since he was a freshman. That year he was the number 2 corner. This past year he was covering everybody's number 1 guy. So he is going into year 3 as a starter. One of the best corners, maybe one of the best athletes in the state period. So there's definitely some holes there, but they do have a good starting spot with the Reagans. And then, like I said, Cody, some of the big question marks. I guess offensively, start with receiver. Kai Crow's gone. You can count on that was 1,000 yards of production at receiver. He played some running back, some emergency safety, a great kicker. But we'll stick with his receiving ability right now. Who do you see? How optimistic are you in the who's coming back in the receiving?
Yeah, probably the obvious answer that could step into that number 1 role is probably Evan Turley. just does it all, can play both sides. I even returns the punts and all that. So kind of your do-it-all player that I feel like can step into a Crow role.
Yeah, good speed. And they have, different guys who, different kind of feels like roles as receiver, because Turley is on the smaller side, probably in the 5'10" range, and super fast.
Obviously, your Jory Toma with the hands was kind of the go-to there.
Very physical.
Middle of the year, so.
Yeah, good athlete, obviously good basketball player. And then another guy that kind of jumped out really late in the season, Camden Brockmeyer, up there around 6'3", 6'4", something like that. Makes a lot of contested catches. I think he had a couple of catches for touchdowns against Seckman, maybe. I think he had one against Kirkwood as well. It was just like he just really, came together at the end of the season. So they have 3 guys. None of them are Kai Crow. None of them are, there yet. They might be one day, but I think as a whole, I think they'll be able to replace him at least adequately. And then, like I said, interior offensive line, I don't know who's going to be playing there. They obviously have some big body guys. The tackles, though, I'm very confident in. You have 2 guys that are getting D1 scholarships that are both, one's like 6'5", the other's 6'7". They're both up around 300-plus pounds. So there's definitely an, question mark. The center, very important part of the team. And the interior of the, the interior of the line is going to be big when it comes to running the football, especially when you're facing, units like Cardinal Ritter, like Edwardsville, like whoever Ballard Memorial High School is from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm going to assume they have big people too.
Probably.
So it's going to be a big question mark early in the season. That's not necessarily the group you're like, hey, let's learn how to gel together against. But I have some confidence. I think Gavin Shin got in there some. He was kind of their swing lineman. Big kid, also really good track athlete. The Atkinson kids got in there some as well. So I don't know who's going to be stepping up there yet, but, I feel like, Cody, they have a pretty good track record of filling in offensive linemen throughout the years.
Yeah, and probably the thing I'm most optimistic at when you look down through this with a Jory Toma, Lucas Cox, Carter, or Evan Turley, Brock Reagan, Blaine Reagan, Jalen, they're all juniors.
Yeah.
So you just got out of your sophomore season, and these guys still have 2 years left to play.
Yeah, a lot of youth on this past year's team. That was that was the biggest thing I felt like too, because not only was it like, hey, you're playing really good teams, but also a lot of them are playing their first varsity football.
Right.
And, took some lumps early, but I'm pretty, they got very, very good experience. On the defensive side, there are some questions about the defensive line. They play 3-4. The best 3 guys out there were Wessel, Keller, and Lindsley. Keller and Lindsley are now gone. Who's going to plug in there? There's a lot of, like I said, a lot of big bodies. Bregman, Williams, Johnson, Shin, Atkinson, a lot of guys that can play. And, I guess also, is Bryson Wessel going to play both ways? Probably. He is going to be apparently a Big 12 defensive lineman, Ryan. That usually bodes well.
It's usually a good sign.
Yeah, usually it definitely helps the defensive line. So I assume he's going to be playing both ways again. So, there is definitely that. And then we mentioned, Cody, what guys are going to step in for Ford and Allspaw, who were very, very good, back there in the secondary. But, like I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty optimistic about the Reagans. And there were some other guys that definitely showed flashes throughout the year.
Yeah. Next man up, probably Lucas Cox. I think he played pretty good in that secondary linebacker role. So,
yeah. And then, overall, Cody, what do you think is about the team as a whole? Because, Jackson now in Class 6, they have been the last couple of years. They've knocked off Seckman the last couple of years in districts, but you play an absolute, bear of a team whenever you get to quarterfinals, and then from there on out. Do you think this roster potentially is the roster that could maybe break through and get past a, as crazy as it sounds, like a CBC, Kirkwood with a bunch of D1 guys, whoever it might be?
Yeah, that's always kind of been the Achilles heel of Jackson. You never feel like you have as many D1 athletes to match up with all these other schools. But whenever we start talking about Jackson this year, we do have a couple commits there, and at the line where you need to be able to push some guys around. So maybe this is a year we could play with them.
Yeah, I'm optimistic for sure, and we can look in the schedule a little bit for this upcoming year. They do play Cardinal Ritter again early in the season, but this one is at Jackson. We did say, Cardinal Ritter lost about 15 guys are going to be playing on Saturdays this year. So Do I think they're going to win? Not necessarily. But do you think it's probably going to be closer than 44-7, Cody?
Yeah, I don't think this year it's a running clock game. It's a home game. Yeah, do they come out of there with a victory? Maybe not, but hey, can we play with the big boys? This is probably a game to get you started, get the ball rolling, and maybe you get knocked in the teeth a little bit, but how do we recover from that?
Yeah. Week 2, new opponent coming long drive from Louisville, Kentucky, Ballard Memorial High School. I looked into them a little bit. I tried to find anything I could. They went 6-7 last year. They're a team apparently that plays, a lot of really good teams because in the postseason they went on a run all the way to the quarterfinals. They lost to the eventual state champion. They're in the biggest class in Kentucky. Max Preps has them as the number 25 overall team in the state. So I don't really have much of a read on what they are, what they're going to be like, anything, but I'm sure it is going to be a very tough test.
Yeah, same as you. They go out and play people within 200 miles, and they try to get the best schedule they can. And, yeah, they may only come out of there 500, but they're going to be ready for the postseason. So early matchup, kind of hard to tell what they bring back. To be determined, I guess.
Yeah, I know the only guy I found anything about, the quarterback is apparently really good, dual threat kid. Has some smaller offers, I know, so obviously going to be a test. And like I said, if you're playing, I looked it up their school. I think it has like 2,500 kids or something. I'm sure they can find a few pretty good athletes up there. Week 3, we get another rematch at Edwardsville.
3 straight years.
Your favorite place in the world to go. 3 straight years. Year 1 playing up there, maybe the worst possible experience calling a game of all time. This is just a complaining hour. I'm going to get back in on the complaining. Year 2, fine location-wise. It was 1,000 degrees, and it was on a Saturday evening. Like, what are we doing? This year, we get the fortune of driving to Edwardsville one more time, Cody.
Yeah, at least we were up in the bleachers last year.
In the bleachers.
We'll see where we're at. I do remember vividly calling out the 25 seniors, I think, on the fence. They had all the way down through the sideline, all the seniors, so they do lose a lot. I remember something like the top 4 wide receivers were all seniors. So
yeah, they lose a lot.
They lose a lot. So we'll see what they bring back.
Edwardsville, they ended the year 6-4, and due in large part to losing 3 straight at the end of the year. This is pretty good Murderers Row. They played East St. Louis, DeSmet, and then Elmhurst, York. It's a very fancy name, high school, who was the state runner-up to end the season. They said they graduate 25 to 30 guys. They beat us 3 straight years, but
I think Weaver was just a
quarterback.
Junior quarterback, so he'll be back this year.
So the quarterback is back, and the other guy who's, I guess, the headliner is a guy named Devin Hill Lomax at wide receiver. He's like 6'4". He's committed to Illinois. He'll be back, so, that'll be painful. But, yeah, it's right. It just never ends. So it will be tough. Weaver and Lomax will sure be a tough duo to stop, but they did lose so much. They also, they lost the number 1 player in the state of Illinois, which will definitely help Jackson out here on the defensive line. The Epineza kid, whose brother plays for the Bills. Ryan. What the heck? Yeah, Ryan. Doing the research for these games is just like, let's see what colleges all these kids are committed to.
Yeah.
So the Epineza kid's at Iowa now, not at Edwardsville. So he took about 3 offensive linemen to block. He's gone. The other defensive end with them is gone. They lose a lot at all 3 levels on defense. That'll definitely help things out. Offensively, they bring back quarterback, bring back a really stud wide receiver. They do lose, like you said, like 3 or 4 other wide receivers that are also like all playing at like Indiana and stuff. And then they're really good running back. I think his last name was Moore. He was just unbelievable. He was just running through people. He's graduated as well. So it's another game, Cody. Am I saying Jackson will win? No, but they do get in. Week 3. It'll be after 2 really, really good teams. I think it will definitely be a competitive ball game.
Right. Yeah. After you get a couple of really good lines under your belt and you get into Edwardsville, maybe one of these years we'll get to play them at home. But
no.
I'm kind of surprised. I guess they couldn't convince him to come over here.
No.
Stick with the regular schedule, I guess.
Nope. Am I going to say something mean? Nope. Nope. Also, garbage stadium. No, like, what are we doing?
That's what I hear.
No, like, you have
From
like
you,
3,000 kids. Yeah, Ryan hears everybody hears it from me.
Yeah.
You have like 3,000 kids that go there. Like, get a plug in, like, somewhere and put it. Call one electrician. I'm done. Promise. Nope, I don't promise. I don't promise.
Not even close.
The week after that, I have less complaints now. Okay. The 19th of September at Farmington. Obviously,
That'll be
it is a game. You look at it from 1,000 feet away. Farmington went 5-5 last year. Jackson beat them 49-35. That is the 14th consecutive win against Farmington for the Indians. But a lot has changed over the offseason. Brent Eckley, the greatest coach in Jackson football history. I don't know about wins and losses, but he won a state title. He's the only one to ever do it. And he will be at Farmington now. Farmington, like we mentioned earlier, has run the triple option as long as I can remember. And now they will be spreading it out 4 or 5 wide, throwing it 30, 35 times a game, Cody.
May bode well for Jackson because Jackson did have trouble with that last year.
We couldn't stop the option the last couple of years. I don't know why.
Like they did score 35 points against us. So,
and the year before, it was like the same thing. Like it was those games the last 2 years have been insanely high scoring. Like we've just gotten gashed by the option.
Yeah.
So that's positive, I guess. But yeah, we also do have to play against maybe the best offensive mind to ever coach in the state of Missouri. So you win some, you lose some. Like I said, year one, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect out of Farmington. They have some good athletes back from last year. Tatum Tinsley, who you mentioned earlier, is just one of those kids that's maybe just the best athlete, one of the best athletes, just regardless of sport in Southeast Missouri. Yeah. He played like 6 positions on the football team. He can score 20 points in basketball. He's just a stud, and I don't know how they'll get him the ball, but Coach Eckley will definitely get that kid the ball a lot. And a lot of other kids. And if you played running back, you might be playing receiver, you might be playing on defense this year. It could be anything. Coach Eckley will move kids around a lot. I mean, I know going into his first year at Jackson, the kid who was a starting quarterback ended up playing receiver. He brought up 2 kids that had never played varsity football to play quarterback, and then one of them transitioned to safety, and the other one was Dante Vandeven. It ended up being pretty good. So he will find the best players, put them in the spot they need to be. So it'll be a tough game. I'm curious to see what happens. It'll be weird. A lot of fond memories of Coach Eckley for a lot of Jackson people. So it'll be a heart divided for a lot of people. But week after that, on the road once again at Poplar Bluff. Bluff went 5-6. They lost to Cape in the district semifinals. Jackson did beat them 57-9. Cody, that was our Hurricane game. It was just a lot of handing the ball off. Game was over super fast, so that was nice.
Yeah, we had a running clock in the second half. I think we started it in the third quarter. Yeah. Teams agreed on that, so that was when we were done by 9:00.
Jackson's won 10 out of 11 in this series, and I mentioned earlier they're going into year 2. Coach is named Jeff Mannon. He was assistant for 15 years, an alum, and I don't know if the Google AI overview assistant thing was lying or not. I mean, when you look at Poplar Bluff on the Misha website, they don't have any district titles since like 2009, which is what the website shows. It said they haven't won any district titles since 2000. It's a crazy number for me, but I guess it makes sense. A lot of times you're playing Cape, Farmington, or Jackson.
They did beat Jackson, but that was the semifinal.
Yeah.
And then lost, so yeah.
Yep. Then we mentioned already the big one, Cape Central. We've talked about it already. Cape, good year, 3 straight 10-win seasons. But Jackson has beat them 9 straight times, 42-6 last year. I'm still going to lean Jackson's way. It's definitely at home, so I am optimistic about that for the Indians. And then they finish out conference slate to play all teams 4 games in a row. They host Saxony, beat them 55-12. 12 straight wins against Saxony. Coach Gibbs was the last coach to beat Jackson. Coach Eckley's first year. I went to that game. It was at Saxony. Jackson was undefeated. They were undefeated, and we lost. Sucked. But here we are. Saxony 3-7 last year. We talked about them. They lost in the first round of districts. Coach May, a lot of years of experience. Very good job. A lot of quotes about how much better they're getting. They bring back some pretty good athletes on the perimeter. Keen Atkins at receiver. Kenneth Holcomb at running back. And Pierce Baker at quarterback did a good job, especially running the ball. So I expect them to be improved. I definitely do, like I said, lean Jackson there. And then Jackson plays now, Cody, Miller Career and Vashon, we played last year. They've now added Sumner High School.
Wow.
I don't know where Sumner is necessarily. It's in the area. So it is now Miller Career Academy, Vashon, and Sumner against Jackson. This is another game Jackson should win. They won 55-14. Yep. Miller Career / Vashon did go 5-6 last year. They went to the district championship game. Who did they play? I think they played Lutheran North though, and that did not go well. Obviously.
No, yeah, that was not good.
And then obviously, like I said, they had pretty good athletes. There's just a real lack of depth. I mean, a couple kids got hurt, and it was just like they were moving kids all over the place, which is how it works. I mean, they're a team with 20-something, 30-something kids. Does not have the depth to hold it for 4 quarters, but solid team. And then ending the year at Festus, which Jackson has beaten weirdly easily, I feel like, the last several years. They beat them 43-7 last year. That's 3 straight wins against Festus. Festus went 11-3 and went to the state title game. So, I mean, this is a good Festus team, good Festus program. They do lose. They lose quite a bit. So I think they might take a step back. But they've been rolling pretty well recently. I know, that was a team that I feel like Kate played a lot, past several years. Played in districts a couple times, I think, as well. Yeah. So, I mean, a good program, always good athletes. And, I think they're losing like quarterback, running back. I think two of their running backs maybe. They're losing quite a bit. But they're coming off a big year. Their only losses were to Lutheran North, who was a Class 4 state champions. They lost to DeSmet, who was a Class 6 state champions, and Jackson. So, pretty good group to be in. But they do lose a lot of big-time players, like I said. So, that should be a competitive game up there at Festus. But I do lean Jackson's way also, since I'm just like talking about my own personal preferences in life. Nice press box. Shout out to Festus. I don't know who is in charge there, but you're doing a great job, and I appreciate you. Appreciate you as a person. So, Cody, what do you think? This Jackson team, good season last year with a lot of new. They do lose a little bit, but they bring back a lot of experience, a lot of talent. What's your expectation this year? What do you think? How do you think the season's going to go?
Yeah, I think eerily similar to last year. You may start the season 1-2, 2-1, something like that, but 1 or 2 losses on the season. The back half looks a lot similar to last year. I think you're right there, 8-1, 7-2 season. Yeah,
it's a situation where I do think, like you said, I think the team's going to be better, but the record might not be. The record might be worse, but the team I think will be a lot better. And, like I said, hopefully it'll show in the postseason, come back, maybe pick up another district title to probably be played at Seckman again, because they're probably going to play a bunch of teams with a losing record and go undefeated. And we're going to have to play there. But here we are. We'll do it again.
Does that bother you, Caleb?
It bothers me. You know why, Ryan, it bothers me? I told you I'm done complaining. I'm not done complaining now. Because Cody and I were in the freezing cold.
Yeah.
Just dew. We were soaking wet. Like 35 degrees. I was just like shivering, saying, Parsons, touched out. I couldn't get words out of my mouth. It was miserable. I was losing it. All right. That's maybe my last complaint for a few minutes.
There you go.
Last team to talk about. The team that, Ryan, you were a proud graduate of Saxony Lutheran High School. The Saxony Lutheran Crusaders have a football team, Ryan. What was the thoughts when that came across the ticker for you?
You want my honest opinion?
No, Ryan. I want your optimistic, nice things.
I thought it was great for them, and I wish we would have had it when I was there.
Right.
Because we had a choice between that or another sport, and they went with the other sport, and we were very upset.
What was the other sport?
Soccer.
They're pretty good at soccer.
Yeah.
All right, so Saxony Lutheran, first varsity football season. School was founded in 1999, so first year of football. Last year was technically the first year of football. They played an exclusively JV schedule. They had a lot of success. Obviously, you can see that sometimes when you do have, maybe some older kids playing against maybe some younger kids, but I'm pretty optimistic about the program, the direction of the program, things like that. You have good leadership over there. You have Coach Turner heading the thing up. He's a phenomenal player himself. Played at a high level. Has some experience coaching. His kids, a lot of kids throughout the years, training kids, and they're trying to maybe rival Farmington with the hire of the year in Southeast Missouri of Ryan. They hired the offensive coordinator from Southeast Missouri State University who scored like 50 points a game to be their offensive coordinator. So that's pretty cool.
That's crazy.
That's pretty cool. Coach Jeremy McDowell comes over from SEMO. Obviously, a very good offensive mind. He led a crazy SEMO offense this past year. They put up crazy numbers, and hey, going to try and do it over at Saxony. His son's on the team. Like I said, there's a lot of young guys. They went 6-0 against the JV schedule last season. And, I'll be curious to see what it looks like playing the varsity schedule. They had, what was it, Cody, like 30-something kids on the roster this past season.
Yeah, something like 34 kids. But this year, you get some home games, I heard.
They do. You get actual home games. They only graduated 6 kids. On the Misha website from last year, the people that are returning, who knows who is actually returning, who might come back out. They had 9 kids that are going to be seniors, 6 kids are going to be juniors, and then 12 kids are going to be sophomores. Cody mentioned earlier they apparently have a very big freshman class just in general at Saxony. And so, maybe probably because of football a little bit more influx of talent.
Yeah.
You might expect, no hate whatsoever, but it's like you'd expect maybe some kids from Cape or Jackson or, I don't know, maybe some kid from probably somewhere out of town that doesn't have football that's like, hey, I want to do this. Let's get in here at the ground level of this thing. So, I think they'll have a solid team this year. Like I said, I personally don't know a lot. I watched a couple of games of theirs last year. Most of those games, I was watching a screen that had the football game playing, and there was no scoreboard, there was no sound, there was nothing. So I was just watching like blurry colors moving around the field, hand up. But I'm pretty optimistic. They looked good, Cody. Their schedule this past year, they put up a lot of points in these ball games. Like you said, it was a JV schedule, but you can go through it. They, did a good job. Won some games pretty handily too.
Yeah, you win your first game ever, 40-38 at Doniphan. You're going to play Doniphan again this year, so high scoring game there. But it was their first game ever, so maybe a little different this year.
Yeah, this year, a little bit of a different schedule and some different teams, some teams that many people might not have heard of or ever seen play football before. Week 1, Veritas Christian Academy. They played a lot of small schools here in the area.
So they're going to go 2 O'Fallon for that one, first game of the year.
Okay, so playing up in O'Fallon, interesting. So long drive up there to O'Fallon. School went 1-8 this past season. Once again, I'm not trying to dunk on these people too hard, but we mentioned earlier they were 4 teams only win of the season. They scored 108 points. They gave up 415. I think it's a pretty good opportunity for your first varsity football game to probably get a win for the Crusaders. Then an interesting ball game is Doniphan. So Doniphan last year also did not play varsity football. They played JV football exclusively. So it's going to be the same kids playing each other. And you said it was, a 2-point ball game. So I think, I'll be interested to see how that goes. Doniphan at the JV level on that team, they went 7-1. Their only loss was to Saxony. So, I will lean Saxony just because I'm being, optimistic and, a homer of sorts and whatnot. And like I said, I like the way they're going. And they get to host a game. First ever home game. It'll be pretty cool.
That's on a Thursday, so maybe we can make it to that one.
I'm trying. My goal.
I saw they got the bleachers up and the press box up and everything out there at the field now, so it's coming along.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. Yeah, my goal is to be there. I will make no promises, but my goal is to be there. Stay tuned. The week after that, they play at Sparta, Illinois. This past year, Sparta and Steelville, Illinois, played together. They went 0-9. They only played 1 game within single digits. They allowed 381 points and scored 148. As I put it earlier, I think this is a good opportunity for Saxony to potentially get another victory at the varsity level. They follow that up versus Marquette Catholic, which is in Alton, Illinois. So a lot of Illinois teams, Cody, traveling over there. I guess that's probably in part due to, not having a consistent schedule like a lot of these teams do, being in a conference or whatever yet. So
yeah, normally you're probably going to schedule some home and away, some Illinois teams that aren't real far from the Perryville-Jackson area. But yeah, also of note there, a little bye week in between. Not sure if that's looking for another game or they will have a bye week before that Alton game.
How many? This is good TV again. How many games do they have on there?
They have 8 scheduled.
They have 8,
so they got that one bye week in there.
So they might, yeah. We'll see what changes there. So they do play Marquette Catholic. Another team, 0-9 last season. Marquette Catholic scored a total of 5 touchdowns for a grand total of 37 points. They gave up 380. Once again, I like Saxony to potentially be undefeated. We'll see if they get a team in there between the 12th and the 26th. But yeah, in my opinion, the first big test, I guess, will be home against Charleston October 3rd. Cody, Charleston, a somewhat smaller school, but a team that always consistently has some really, really good athletes. Yeah,
that's going to be a tough game. Went 7-4 last year and just already established. They're a bigger school, so it's going to be a tough game. It does say it's a home game for Saxony, but tough game there at Charleston.
Yeah, Charleston went to their district semis. They lost in overtime to Crystal City last year. They will lose a decent amount from this past season. They had a couple kids like Bernard Betts was like a crazy home run hitter kid. Somebody that we all saw, Deshaun Henderson, in basketball was a beast. In football, I think he was all conference on offensive line and defensive line, which makes sense. I mean, the kid was just massive, crazy good athlete. So they do lose some, but Ryan, like we said, we've watched a lot of Charleston basketball. Mm-hmm. If that translates over whatsoever, I know like Trinez Lane that was on the basketball team will be playing as well, and for football, there's some crossover there. So, like I was saying, if there's any crossover between basketball and football, we know that they have some really, really good athletes year out.
Definitely, yeah.
And then an even bigger test, one could say, is the very next week at Perryville, on the road against the last season 10-2 Perryville Pirates. Cody, should be a very, very big test up there at Perryville.
Yeah, now you're moving up to a Class 4 school. It is a close in proximity, but yeah, you're moving up to a Class 4 school. I feel like Perryville just keeps getting bigger and bigger, so going to be a tough test there.
Yeah, they lost in their district championship to Festus. I mentioned earlier, went to the state title game. So, yeah, good season for Perryville. I don't know what they bring back exactly. I was trying to look into it a little bit. I know they do lose some kids that were pretty big contributors, but like you said, Class 4 school in a good spot right now. I'm pretty optimistic about Perryville, so we'll see. It will be a big, big test.
Perryville's improved a lot, too, the last few years. I mean, there was pretty much a gimme game if you had Perryville on your schedule, and now you're looking at a possible shootout.
Yeah, they've done a good job up there. I've been impressed. What's kind of like you said, the turnaround they've made in the last couple seasons. And then they finished the year, Saxony, against a couple more Illinois schools, Cody. I think the first one you have over there, Massac County, right?
Yeah, out of Metropolis. Looks like that's listed as a home game, but yeah.
And Massac County, last season, they did a little bit of a co-op situation themselves. They went 1-8. They scored 99 points on the season. They gave up 374. A good chance to potentially bounce back for Saxony after playing a couple of tougher squads in Charleston. We'll see how it goes. Charleston, Perryville. I'm not going to say that the Charleston game is out of reach completely for Saxony. Obviously, we have to see them, put the pads on, but Perryville will be a tough test, but you do play a winnable game against Massac County. They finished the year against Redbud, Illinois, who was the Musketeers. Fun name. Yeah, they finished with the Pirates, the Patriots, and the Musketeers. Yeah. No Lions and Tigers. I appreciate it. So the Musketeers, 5-5 last season. They actually made the playoffs in 2A in Illinois. They got knocked out in the first round. I did look into Redbud a little bit because, like I said, they are one of the more winning programs that Saxony will be facing. They do bring back a good quarterback. That was a sophomore this past year. But they do lose a lot off to that team that went to the playoffs. So we'll call it a little bit of a toss-up, but I do kind of lean Saxony there. So, I mean, Cody, I really think, year one at the varsity level, a good opportunity for Saxony to pick up quite a few wins on the way.
Yeah, I think with the 8 games that they have listed, I think you're realistic with 6-2.
Yeah. I feel pretty positive about them. I know we were talking a little bit earlier, where they're going to land enrollment-wise. I know you had kind of the districts pulled up. They could be Class 1. Their enrollment last year was right on the edge of 1 and 2.
Class 1, District 1 would be Chaffee, Charleston, Crystal City, Hayti last year. St. Vincent was in that class. So
yeah, St. Vincent's been very good last year.
Probably would put them in that Class 1, District 1.
Yeah.
No multiplier, obviously, with having not played it. So,
yep. So it'd be interesting to see. Like I said, on the Misha website, their enrollment was 174. The cutoff is right there around that 170 range. So we'll see where they land. But yeah, I'm pretty interested. Ryan, it'll be neat to kind of have another team here in Cape County for the first time.
Yeah.
In a long time. Not going to say ever. I don't know. In my lifetime, first time. So it'll be kind of neat to have another team here in the area to keep track of and see how they do.
It'll be interesting too to see if maybe they try to get into the SEMO conference, because with football it's much bigger than it is in our basketball conference.
Right.
Because we've got other teams like Kelly that's in the SEMO conference for football, but not for anything else.
Yeah.
And then the girls basketball for Saxony is in SEMO conference,
right,
but not boys. So it'd be interesting if they try to join maybe one of the SEMO conference divisions.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, because SEMO, like you said, they have different divisions in football where it's like South, East, West, North, where all the bigger schools like Cave, Jackson, Sykeston, Bluff, Farmington are all in the North.
Yeah.
And so I'll be curious to see where they do land, and like you said, conference stuff like that, and that'll give them those kind of consistent games they play, and maybe
make that scheduling a lot easier.
Yeah, make the scheduling a lot easier. Make the travel a little bit easier probably too, not having to cross the river a bunch. But it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see where this thing goes for Saxony. I'm pretty optimistic. Like I said, I think they have they have some kids. Cody, you were looking at the roster earlier. I mean, they bring back some real size on the line of scrimmage.
For sure. Yeah. A couple of kids that go north of 250, a pretty good line. I mean, you put their linemen up against other in the area, and then a young quarterback who can see over that line. So, have the makings of a really good offense.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. Like I said, it'll be fun to keep up with. I will definitely be rooting for Saxony. There's, I have no hatred in my heart. Me, I am super positive. That's what they say about me. As you can tell from what's all gone on here.
I haven't heard that.
People are saying. Those people might be me, but the people are saying. So, can close it out, kind of talking about the SEMO Conference North as a whole. We talked about Cape and Jackson a lot already, and have a good feel here of what's coming back. There is some, question marks, intrigue, whatever you might want to say about the other three teams in the North. It's Farmington, Sykeston, Poplar Bluff. Let's see here. Ryan, where do you want to start at? Who do you want to talk about first?
Well, might as well start with Farmington.
Farmington, like we said, Brent Eckley's the head coach. They went 5-5 last year. They got killed by Poplar Bluff in districts. But Brent Eckley, pretty good football coach. He went 102-27 at Jackson. He's a Hall of Famer. He went to the quarterfinals 5 times. They lost in the semifinals once. They went to 2 title games, won 1 championship. And we've mentioned it a few times, they'll be abandoning the option for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
See how that transition goes. It'll be tough, obviously. You're learning whole new blocking techniques. You've got to, whoever it's going to be, you have a kid that's going to be playing quarterback that's going to be throwing the ball 20 times for the first time in his life. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt, how they adjust, how they get there. But they have good athletes. Farmington, we see them in basketball every year too. They're a school that has really, really good athletes.
Yeah, they've got some definitely good basketball players and some tall basketball players, which, around in this area, a lot of basketball guys play football. There's a lot of multi-sport players.
And when you have, somebody like Coach Eckley, kind of fires up the kids in school that might not have been playing football, might not have been as interested.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I get to play for a guy that's done all this winning. Get you motivated to go out there. We mentioned one guy, Tatum Tinsley, very, very entertaining athlete. And, like I said, nothing's off limits with Coach Eckley. He's going to be moving kids from one side of the ball to the other, changing positions. And I mentioned earlier, he, in year 1 at Jackson, won 7 games after that team had won 6 the last 3 years combined. So, he is able to turn things around. That was a complete style change. Jackson was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And so he went to spreading it out, and we were throwing it all over.
Mm-hmm.
And they do lose quite a bit. We mentioned, Brett Dry, a kid that, Cody, I feel like we've seen play quarterback for a decade at this point. He always did a good job leading that offense. A really good athlete, alongside, Casey McLean, the guy that was like their fullback, D-back guy. The two kids that we saw the most of the last few years.
Yeah, definitely guys that can move the football, physical guys, take care of the football. Interested to see how that spread works.
Yep. They have a few guys coming back. They have a big kid on the line, Isaac Owens, played defensive end. He got some sacks, some tackles for a loss. He's 6'4", 230. Good-sized kid. And then their leading rusher coming back, a kid named Josh McCarthy, also good size, 6'2", 205. We'll see where he plays. He ended around 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. He played defensively, had 70 tackles, 3.5 for a loss. So, they're a team, we keep saying they have really, really good athletes. They remind me a lot of Jackson, like size-wise, athletic-wise, like, we said, playing basketball. And then, the big difference has just been the style of play they've gone with. There's been the option. So we'll see how they adjust, playing something, more similar to what we're used to seeing. Then as we jump down to Poplar Bluff, we mentioned now a few times, went 5-6. They lost to Cape by only a touchdown in districts. They went 1-3 in the SEMO conference last season. I mentioned earlier they may or may not have won a district championship since 2000. They've been a Class 5 school for a long time now, the last 10, 15 years, whatever it is. So, they're used to playing at that level, but it feels like they've been maybe a tick behind, or they haven't been able to reach the highest highs of like a Cape or a Jackson.
Yeah.
And see what they're able to do. Year 2, like I said, under Coach Mannon. He's been there for a long time, and they bring back a lot. I think they're going to be very tough this year. Now, the big question mark, which is obviously the most important position on the field, is quarterback. Jay Edmondson. I know, Ryan, we've seen Jay Edmondson play multiple sports now for a very long time.
Yeah.
He's graduating with, about 4,000 yards passing in his career, 29 touchdowns, 1,200 yards rushing, 18 touchdowns on the ground. Longtime starter there. A little turnover prone. He had 21 interceptions in his career, but, he's been steady, so that's going to be a big hole to replace.
Yeah. That's another one of those kids, like you said. Feels like they've been playing there for 10 years. When does this kid finally graduate?
Yeah.
But, yeah, that'll be a big hole to fill for whoever tries to take over after him. And he was a good quarterback, and he did play really well in tight situations. Yeah. He had a good head on his shoulders.
There's a lot of experience. And so, obviously that's a big question mark anytime you're replacing quarterback. And they lose their leading receiver, Hunter Clifford. He ends with 46 catches, about 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. He also was the kicker and punter.
Yep.
That's always a fun thing trying to replace. But, I feel like they're pretty consistent, Ryan. They usually have good running backs. They have pretty good athletes on the perimeter. It feels like they're always solid on the line of scrimmage. They sometimes have really big kids. And then, like, linebacker-wise, they're always really tough. So, they were 500 last year. What's your outlook? Do you think they're going to be maybe a little bit better, maybe improved from this past season, or probably hanging around a similar spot?
Probably hanging around a similar spot. Maybe 6-4.
Yeah,
5-5, 6-4.
But you have their schedule pulled up.
Really a mind-boggling schedule. They lose to Farmington in September by 3. They play Farmington again in November and beat them by 35. So a little different. And then you get blown out by Cape 49-6, and then you lose to Cape by a touchdown. So a little schedule for them last year.
See, so you can definitely say though they're like trending in the right direction. Yeah. There's some momentum going that way.
End of the year was good.
And they play, I think, the exact same schedule, but the inverse, which is, it has, definitely some landmines. Valley View is phenomenal. They went to the state semifinals in Arkansas this past year. And they play Chaminade, who, that's a scary name, but Chaminade is very gettable on the football field. Jason Tatum doesn't play football for him. So,
yeah, exactly.
Like, that's a winnable ball game, especially at your place. And then it's the SEMO Conference. How's it going to go for them? Farmington, we have a lot of questions about Farmington. Cape Central, they've struggled against Cape, but Cape has a lot of new faces. Jackson will be going to Poplar Bluff, which is always, a tough environment. And Sykeston, definitely a gettable game, team they've had some success against. And they end the year with up and down kind of group here. They will be playing, at West Plains, who had a good season this past year, pretty consistently solid. Kennett, rough year. Hillsboro, pretty consistent. They had one great year. So, I mean, it is fair to say that they could be a better team. I keep saying this about a few teams, and I'm going to say the same thing in a minute about Saxony. They could have a similar record, but I think the team's probably going to be a little bit better.
Everybody can have a better record than they had last year.
I said they're going to have the same record. The team's going to be better. Don't like Saxony.
Somebody's got to lose somewhere.
Saxon's is 3-7 last year. And that's a situation, again, where they have a lot of guys coming back, and they could be a lot better, but they could still be 3-7 at the end of the year. So, they play a tough schedule. They play the SEMO Conference, so they're going to see Cape, Poplar Bluff, Farmington, Jackson, who going to be an uphill battle against all four. They have winnable games. They still have Dexter, who I don't know what Dexter's going to look like this year. They were amazing last year. They went undefeated in the regular season. They got knocked out in the quarterfinals. They're going to lose a lot, but it's still going to be a tough team from where Saxon's coming from. They play Caruthersville this year, Cody, which is a team that's very tough to beat, always loaded with athletes.
Yeah, you're going to play them at home, but then, you see 4 games in a row there. They're not going to leave their home stadium in the month of September, so it bodes well for them there.
That helps. Yeah, they end the year, a couple of winnable games, in my opinion. They're playing at New Madrid, a little bit of a rivalry maybe, and then Charleston, which is the big rivalry.
Yeah.
And, Charleston beat them pretty good last year. But Charleston does lose quite a bit, and like I said, Saxon brings a good amount back, and I think they might be able to get Charleston this year. So once again, though, like I said, it's still going to be, maybe a 3, maybe 4 win season, but I think the team as a whole is going to be a lot better.
Yeah, I think they'll look better and probably score some more points, but yeah, I think the record's going to be pretty similar.
Yeah, and like I said, they bring back a lot of guys. I wrote down the names. Pierce Baker at quarterback. I like the way he looked at times. He was definitely facing a tough team when we saw him against Jackson, but he did good things. He did a really good job running the ball, about 600 yards, 13 touchdowns on the ground. Their secondary has a lot of good athletes. The Atkins kid, the running back Holcomb's going to be playing both ways. So I'm optimistic. Linebacker Sam McGill, he's going to be all conference type kid, but in the end, Ryan, what do you think? How do you think? Give me an order 1 through 5 SEMO Conference. What do you think here? I'm putting you on the spot.
All right. Well, I'm going to say we're just talking north, right?
North, yeah.
Okay, good.
I talked about 30 teams.
Yeah. It's probably. I think it's going to look a lot like last year. I think it's going to end up being. I think it'll be Jackson, Central, Farmington, Bluff, Saxon, yeah.
Yep. Cody, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. Same exact order: Jackson, Central, Farmington, Bluff, Saxon.
All right, I would like to be contrarian, and I will say Jackson's going to go undefeated. I think Farmington's going to come second. I think they're going to go 3-1 in the conference. Cape's going to go 2-2. Bluff's going to go 1-3. Saxon's going to go 0-4. Mostly just to spite you, Ryan, because you're sitting right here next to me.
Okay, that sounds about right.
And what? I mean, Coach Eckley is the only thing that made football fun for me in my life in high school. So I'm always very optimistic about what Coach Eckley can do for our team. And I think Farmington's going to be solid. They have good athletes, and I think he's going to put them in, better spot than they might have been in. I think they're going to win some games. Like I said, the biggest 50-50 games, in my opinion, just my opinion, Cape and Bluff. We'll see how that goes. Like I said, their second matchup was close.
Yeah.
Both teams going to be needing a new quarterback. So that's a big question. Cape and Farmington, for me, is a big question mark, 50-50 game. Both those games at Cape, though.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be positive. And then Farmington playing Poplar Bluff. Once again, don't know how that's going to end up. My big question mark, obviously, is Farmington. I wonder what it's going to look like. But I think it's going to look pretty good, especially after a few years. So anything else you guys want to have to talk about? Anything else? We've exhausted all of our words and brain power for the evening.
That's it.
That's it,
Yeah.
Ryan? No?
I got nothing.
Ryan, where can people listen? Where can people watch? Free calling Cape games this year.
So the Cape games they're going to be on 95.7 on KAPE, and then you can also watch them on YouTube at Cape Central Sports.
Cape Central Sports, and then Ryan posts all the links on social media everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
So go check it out. Go watch those games. Still going to be like cataloging the games after them on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, so even better, like I said, if you are whatever, Saxony fan, Jackson fan, you want to watch the games, go check them out. Like you said, Cape Central Sports on YouTube. You always do a great job, Brian.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
always enjoy listening to
You guys are pretty good too.
We're okay. We're okay. If you want to listen to me complain, Cody be good at his job and me complain.
Yeah,
if you want to listen to Cody be great and professional and me complain, you can also listen to us do the Jackson games on 104.7. Check us out over there. We'll be doing them all again. So it'll be a good year. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Excited to have you come over to Jackson once this year, Ryan, and call the Cape game from there. Get you up on the roof.
It'll be on the roof. Yeah.
Get you on the roof up there. It's good for you. Get some fresh air. Yeah, I'm excited. It's
the
gonna
one
be
time
fun.
of the week I get outside.
It's your only time. It's the only time we let you out. Yep. So yeah, I'm excited. Football season. It's kind of the big one around here, I guess. So it's going to be a fun time. I'm excited to cover it. Ryan, if you're interested, we'll have you back. Maybe talk some more football, talk about Capes some here as the season goes on. And I'm excited to get into it, get back to doing weekly updates, talking about what all happened in the area here. So
Cody, first week, August 29th.
29th.
A couple weeks here. Jackson, we mentioned, has Cardinal Ritter, and Cape is at New Manchester County.
Yep. So good luck driving that. So we'll be on the radio. Ryan will be on Cape Central Sports. So check us out, listen and watch. We'll appreciate it. And as always, here if you're watching, listening, make sure to like, subscribe, all that. Tell your friends. Check us out and enjoy a lot more, weekly football and other fall sports talk as the school year gets started. Games get rolling here, so it'll be fun. I'm excited to talk about it. Excited to do the fall season here. It'll be a lot of fun. So Ryan, thank you for coming. Cody, as always, it's been a good one. We will see everybody in the next one. Thank you guys for watching.